assistant professor at the Yale School of Public Health, where I teach courses in epidemiology and statistical programming, specifically for master's students and doctoral students. I just started working at Yale last year in 2019, but I've actually been a part of the Yale community for a really long time. I actually got my undergraduate degree at Yale in biology in 2010. I went off and worked for a little bit at the National Institutes of Health. I was doing research in genetics for 2 years, but then I went right back to Yale to finish a master's degree in epidemiology. And they convinced me to stay for another degree. So I got a doctoral degree in public health and epidemiology from the Yale Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I finished last year. So when I'm not teaching, what I spend most of my time doing is doing research in human genetics. The study or the field of human genetics focuses on using statistical analyses to identify the parts of our genetic material, of our genetic makeup, our DNA, that make us different from one another, that are responsible for the differences that we see in people's height and people's hair color, our eye color, and other traits, including how likely we are to get different diseases. So what I've been doing since my master's is actually conducting research that uses statistics to identify the genes that make people more likely to gain weight over time, to become overweight or obese, and that make it difficult for people to lose weight, even if they lead healthy lifestyles. If they eat a healthy diet or exercise, they still have a hard time, and genetics has a lot to do with it. Later on in today's session, I will tell you a little bit about how I use statistics to help me in my research. So now that you know a little bit about me, I want to tell you a little bit about my university, about Yale. Yale is one of the oldest colleges in the United States. It was founded in 1701. We are located in a city called New Haven, Connecticut. This is just 2 hours away from New York City, which you guys might be familiar with. Yale is a really, really large university. It has, a wide array of programs, different departments, different schools. It includes Yale College, which is where the undergraduate programs are. It includes the Yale Graduate School, where we house our master's students and our doctoral students. And we also have a wide range of professional school programs. We see architecture, art, divinity, drama, forestry and environmental studies, law schools, management, medicine, public health, music, nursing. So we have a little bit of everything. But since you are all in high school, what is next on your horizons, what you're doing next is pursuing an undergraduate degree. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Yale College specifically. So here's a little bit about Yale College. Yale College has approximately 6,000 undergraduates, and students come here from all over the world. We have, about 10% of our population is international, and we have representation from over 120 different countries. Okay. Yale is known because of its commitment to what we call a liberal arts education. What this means is that students think and learn across a lot of different disciplines, liberating or freeing the mind to its fullest potential. So the idea is of such an education is not really what you study, but the result of your studies. What we want is for you to have the ability to think critically and independently, and to write, reason, and communicate clearly. So anything you want to learn here at Yale, you can do that. There's 80 different majors, 2,000 different classes to choose from, and you get to basically have your pick at it. You get to design your own curriculum. There's also a lot of different ways to get involved around campus. We have over 100 different athletic teams, 50 different performance groups, 60 cultural organizations. So why am I telling you all this? Because, you know, as you are thinking about applying to college in the near future, I really hope that you will consider Yale the way that I did many years ago. And as your teacher, I'd be happy to serve as a resource during the application process. You can ask me any questions that you want about Yale. Okay. So now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about why we're all here today. Because in our iStar class, in our iStar statistics class, what we're going to be doing is diving into the world of statistics. So before we do all of that, I kind of want to hear what you think statistics is. What is statistics to you? Type it into the chat. We'll take like a minute or so to do that. And it doesn't have to be right or wrong, just write your thoughts about what you think statistics is. Okay. I see one comment from Leo. Let me see about that statistics is about description and prediction of data. Okay, another one from Gavin. It could be a subject about analyzing data. Larry says collecting data and calculating to get the necessary information. These are all great responses. Joy says using math to predict the probability of different outcomes. Fantastic. Any other thoughts? Well, if nobody wants to add anything to it, this is totally fine because you guys are 100% correct. That is what statistics is. Here's my formal definition of statistics. It's just the art and science of learning from data. So you all in your answers talked about math, data, numbers, okay, and learning from it, making decisions about it, about certain things with data, or making predictions, okay? And so I have one more question for you guys before we take a little bit of a break. Well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you a little bit more details about what statistics entails. So statistics, basically, the very first thing that we do or that we want to nail down is how to use proper methods to collect data. This could be, you know, using surveys or phone interviews, or maybe doing some sort of biological assays to get different types of data, different information or observations from people or other subjects. The other thing we want to do, or that statistics involves, is helping us figure out what are the right or correct, most appropriate methods to analyze these data. And the last thing is to, you know, help us figure out what conclusions we can make from our data, how we can interpret this correctly, and how we can convey that information to other people. All of these three things, that is what statistics is all about. Okay, so then, I have a chat here. Okay, sorry, this is just Shirley translating for me. Thank you, Shirley. So the last thing I want to do before our break, like I said, was ask you another question. Why do you think statistics is important? Or another way to think about this question is, how would you use statistics? How do you think statistics is used? And you can type that into our chat. Okay. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. Okay, I have 2 responses so far. Oh, they're all coming in at once. This is fantastic. So Melody says that, that statistics is useful because it helps us make predictions. Leo says so that we can draw conclusions from a sample to generalize it to a bigger population. That's great. Gavin says it can be used to process a huge amount of information and data to get a big overall picture. Jawei says, like this time we can use statistics to predict the cases of coronavirus. Absolutely right. Flynn says to help us draw conclusions from information. And the last person says to help us close to the reality and make the right decisions and strategy for future action plans. Oh my God, you guys are so good. So yes, these are all many of the reasons why we care about statistics and why learning the foundations through a class like this one is going to be so important to you guys. So my response to this was not as detailed as yours. It was very, very sort of just big picture. It is the crucial process behind how we make discoveries in science. I use it as a genetic epidemiologist. I use it all the time in my science to make decisions based on data, to make predictions. And so right now we're going to take a little bit of a break. But after the break, I'm going to show you some examples of how we use statistics in a lot of different fields. Thank you.
OK， 好的，刚才各位同学都积极参与了老师的互动哈，大家的答案都太精彩了，你们也受到了我们耶鲁大学教授的高度的肯定和表扬哈，所有参与互动同学都可以领到咱们的小福利1枚。那同时呢，我们现在邀请我们的助教给我们先稍微总结一下上半节课老师讲的内容，同时呢，他也分享一下他学习就是主修这一门专业的一些分享，好吗？
大家好，可以听到我说话吗？
可以的，可以的。
好的。我先来简单总结一下刚才 Selina 教授的说的东西。然后 Selina 教授是耶鲁大学的教授，然后是2014年的时候在流行病学 MPH， 然后现在是 Assistant Professor 的职位在耶鲁。然后Selina 教授主要研究的是人类的遗传学，然后focus 就是主要研究的是鉴定 DNA 中的部分，比如说 DNA 中哪些地方通过数据分析来分析出来人类基因中的哪些部分会让人们变得比如说超重，或者会让我们变瘦。即使我们会吃一个很健康的饮食，所以说统计学在人类基因学的应用就是这个教授主要的研究方向。然后教授简单介绍了一下耶鲁大学是1701年建的，然后在纽黑文在 Connecticut 这个州。然后接下来是什么是统计学？统计学就是从数据中学习的一门艺术和科学。然后统计学的3个步骤，第一步是收集数据，第2步是分析数据，第三步是得出结论。为什么统计学是重要的呢？它是一个重要的过程，因为我们可以在科学中就是有一些发现，然后根据数据来得出一些结论，然后并且对未来有一个预测。对，这就是刚才教授的主要内容。然后分享一下我的学统计的体验。我觉得这是一门应用很广泛的学科，比如说在心理学， 或者气象学，还有商业分析，还有医学中都有很广泛的应用。所以说，对 Intro Stats 这门课就是如果你要学统计的话，一个比较入门的课。可以了。
OK，你有什么？我们车里你有问题可以问问大家吗？Test 一
一个
下刚才跟我
准备大家的
同学
准备给大家的问题就是，大家是为什么想要学习这门课？可以在对话框中发，也可以开麦说。
各位同学可能还没有想好为什么要学习这门课。首先，这门课真的很重要哈，真的和我们生活息息相关，而且不论是从就是将来的就业或者是这种薪资水平，都是在一个很高的一个阶段哈。不过刚才我有说，这门课也是大学的一门通识课程，无论你学什么专业，可能都躲不开它哈。或者大家可以聊聊自己对统计学有什么样的认识。OK， 看到了2个答案。Shirley， 你要做一下点评吗？
好的。Data science use stats，对，就是对，数据科学和统计是息息相关的。然后，数据科学的话就会多一些 coding 的成分，就是编程的方向。然后，I'm planning to start a program called Tips. Is it hot? OK，就是对同学们说，会参加一个叫做 Tips 的项目，然后，会收集到数据。对。可以，还有别的答案吗？
我觉得大家的回答都非常好哈，然后刚才我们的教授也给了大家非常肯定的表扬，然后如果跟着那个咱们耶鲁的这个 Selina 博士继续学完这门课程呢，你们会有机会得到他的推荐信，对你将来的大学申请会有很大的一个助力作用。OK， 好的，那既然大家没有什么想分享的，我们进入到课程的I saw a question from Gavin. Shirley, are you gonna answer this question?
Yeah. So Gavin, so I have a question. Is statistics a distinct major parallel with mathematics, or is it one of the courses within math major? So 这个同学的问题是统计学和数学的关系是什么样的？是这样的，就是比如说像在我们学校的话，就是数学专业的话就是 Math 打头，然后统计的话就是 STSCI 打头，然后但是 Math 里面也会有一些和 Stats 重合的部分。比如说 Stochastic Process， 它就是随机过程这门课，它既会出现在 Math 里面，也会出现在统计里面。就是说，它们中间的交叉有一些是 probability， 就是概率方向。对。然后做统计的话是需要一些数学的基础，就是它们是一些有交叉的部分。对。
好的。Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Now, shall we move on to our second half of the lecture, Dr. Selena?
Sounds good to me. All right. So what I want to show you in this second part is the fact that statistics is used in a lot of different fields. You know, this is going to be your gateway to making an impact in a lot of different careers and a lot of different areas. So this is just a sample of the many different fields that use statistics, anything from agriculture, biology, chemistry, computer science, economics, engineering, government, health sciences, marketing, medicine, The list goes on and on and on, okay? And so what I wanna do is actually show you some examples of how we use this, how we use statistics in epidemiology, which is my field, specifically in genetics, also in medical clinical trials, in engineering, and in public health. Okay, so the first example here that I have is how we use statistics in genetic epidemiology. Again, this is what I do in my research. What genetic epidemiologists would do, or how we would use statistics, is to help us identify mutations that make people more susceptible to developing some disease. And so what I would do is actually study two groups of people. You would look at people who have the disease and people that don't have their disease, collect data from them, collect their DNA information, and then examine their DNA sequences to see where there are differences from person to person. These differences are called genetic variants. So you can see, if we look at these sequences right here, the parts in black are where people are exactly the same, but this part right here, this variant, is where there are differences. Some people have an A, some people have a G in the sequence. Over here, and then people that don't have the disease, most people actually have a G, and only one has an A. Okay, so what we would do, or where statistics would come in, is to help us look at the frequency, compare the frequency of the A's and the G's in the two groups. So what do you guys see here? Where is the A allele more frequent? In the disease or no disease group? In the diseased. So A could be considered, someone asked the question, A is bad. Okay, so the A allele, the A version of the DNA sequence, would predispose people to having this disease. This could be coronavirus, this could be obesity, it could be heart disease. Whatever disease these people have, that's what this A allele, a variant, would be associated with. And the statistics would help us make sure that these differences are statistically significant and hopefully clinically relevant, so that we can do something to target the specific region of DNA. Awesome. So then, statistics is also used in clinical trials. People that run the clinical trials, these could be epidemiologists, medical doctors, statisticians are involved. They use statistics to help us evaluate the efficacy, how well a therapeutic intervention actually works. Okay, so the investigator, this person right here, would randomly assign subjects to two different groups. So they assign people into two different groups. This group right here, I'm giving it the drug with the label A. These people right here, I'm giving them the drug with the label B. So it's two different drugs. And what we're gonna do is follow them over time. As time goes by, actually see who recovers from the disease or doesn't. So the people that stay in the black color right here do not recover, recover from the disease. These people actually die with the disease. The ones over here in black in group B, again, are the ones that recover from the disease. The ones in green actually die from the disease. So 2 die here, 4 die over here. Which drug is better? Can you guys answer that just from looking at this? Okay. So Rain says A. Leo's asking, isn't this unethical though? What do you mean? Why would you think it's unethical, Leo? No, B is not poison. B is not poison. So the idea is that this could be a disease that if untreated, people are going to die from it. So what we want to do is reduce the proportion of people that die. Okay, so actually making them get cured or get a cure from this disease. So here we have more people get cured. Here we have more people that die because the drug did not work. So we're not giving them any poison or any harmful agents. We're giving them two different drugs, and through statistics and by observing their outcomes, we can see which drug has the better outcomes for people. Because you're right, it would be unethical to give them something that we know is bad. We would give them something where we think there is potential, and we want to generate data and use statistics to help us figure out which of the two treatments would be better. Do you guys have any questions about this? Well, what if they give another group of people drug C and they all die? IRB might reject this experiment. The IRB could reject this experiment. I am not, telling you any information about, the drugs themselves, any sort of other previous knowledge on this. It is, if I were to just, write a protocol for something this simple, there has to be oversight from some IRB, like you're saying, some sort of group of people, doctors, statisticians, other scientists that make sure that my experiment is not going to harm anybody, because we would not be allowed to do anything that harms them. The goal of these experiments is not to harm people, it's to prevent them from dying from their diseases. Okay. I hope that that makes it clear for everybody. And where the statistics comes in is so that we can validate what our eyes are telling us. Our eyes here are telling us that people in group A do better than group B. We would need some sort of statistics to back that up so that people would go on to promote treatment A as the better treatment. This is a really good discussion. Thank you for partaking in that. So the next example I have for you guys is the use of statistics in meteorology. So if you've ever seen the news, whether you're a weatherman or weatherwoman, the meteorologists are using statistics to make predictions about our weather. What they do is they build statistical models based on different mathematical equations that help us understand how air moves and how heat is exchanged in the atmosphere. And, they take observations based on the pressure, wind, temperature, and moisture that they get from ground sensors or different weather satellites, and they put that data into the equations. And through that process, they're able to make predictions about, what's going to happen, when or where hurricanes like this one are going to make landfall, for example. Here we have a picture of the United States, and here we have the Atlantic Ocean, and these different colored lines are different predicted paths that a hurricane could take. And so depending on how people build their models in statistical models, they might have different predictions about where the hurricane is going to go and how quickly. Okay, so all statistics is powering all of these predictions. One really, really famous example of the importance of statistics comes from the field of engineering. Okay, so engineers at NASA actually use statistics to determine what seem like simple things, what the probability that a shuttle launch will actually be successful. Okay, so in 1986, there was a really terrible accident that happened with a space shuttle called the Challenger. We can see the Challenger exploding here in this picture. It actually exploded only 73 seconds after launch, killing 7 astronauts that were on board. And so this accident is thought to have happened because NASA decided to launch the shuttle in very cold weather. It was 29 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to approximately -1 degree Celsius. And this happened, they decided to make the launch without carefully analyzing performance data, low temperatures. So what I'm showing you here in this top plot is, on the x-axis we have the temperature, and on the y-axis we have the number of incidents. So the number of malfunctions in a particular part of the shuttle that occur or that have occurred in the past at these given temperatures. Okay, so we have, here at 52 degrees, we have about 3 different incidents. Here at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, we have about 1 incident. So using these data, the astronauts the engineers actually said, I don't have any evidence to suggest that if the temperature is really low in this direction, that there would be any incidents. I don't think we have anything to worry about. And they went ahead with the launch. But, upon investigating a little further after the accident happened, people actually found out that this graph was missing a big part of the data. They actually had excluded data points that where, in temperatures where there had been absolutely no incidents. So we can see that from here, 65 degrees to 80 degrees, there's a lot of data suggesting that no incidents would happen. And so people have analyzed this larger data set with more data points and have actually calculated that the probability that the accident would have happened was 99% at that temperature. Okay, so the moral of the story is that using the proper data and proper statistical analyses would have prevented this disaster in 1986. Okay, so that's why statistics is so important. Some of you already alluded to this in our previous discussion, the fact that statistics is also at the forefront of our investigations of the COVID-19 pandemic. Statistics are part of the groups of people that, they track the cases. They also make projections or predictions about the cases that we will see in the future, about the deaths that we're going to see in the future, and about how effective our lockdowns and social distancing measures will be in order to flatten the epidemic curves. So what I'm showing you here is, these points in black are our observed data from February all the way until May. And over here, or mid-April, I should say, last week. And then all of this right here are the predictions. So these different predictions are making different assumptions about how well social distancing works. These predictions of lower mortality, lower death, are models that assume that social distancing and lockdowns will work really well. These higher predictions are coming from models that assume that it will not work as perfectly as we would like it to. Okay, okay. So then I really hope that I have convinced you that statistics is absolutely everywhere, that statistics has far-reaching effects on all of our lives. And as I said, taking our iStar class is going to give you the opportunity to gain foundational skills in statistics so that you can begin to make an impact in the fields of your choice. So in our course, just to give you a little bit of a taste of what it's going to look like, we're going to be covering these different topics. We'll talk about types of variables, how to describe data, what is called descriptive statistics, so making plots, making charts, that all goes under the umbrella of descriptive statistics. We'll talk about probability, because a lot of the things that we want to do in making predictions involve probabilities. We'll also talk about what are called random variables, which has to do with sampling, which we'll get into a little bit. So random variables and their distributions, whether it's discrete random variables or continuous random variables. Then we'll dive into making estimates from our samples called parameter estimates, something called confidence intervals, and hypothesis testing. We'll do tests of differences in means, tests of differences in proportions, and we'll also do some model building. We're gonna get into how to build models that make predictions using a technique called linear regression. So before we conclude, I want to just end with some reminders. You know, this is going to be a college degree course. So if you take statistics now, you can take those credits with you to college. Okay? And students that do well in this course can actually earn a recommendation letter from me. Another thing that's really great about taking this course now is that our class size is going to be limited to 25 students. A lot of universities are going to have, for intro classes like this, are going to have many more students in a classroom. So you're going to get way more one-on-one attention here than you would in a normal general education course. Lastly, you're also going to have the opportunity to participate in research and write your own research paper. And having this experience is going to strengthen your college applications. So again, this, you know, when you're applying to college, you're going to use a system called the Common App. And there's a section where you can put things like this, where you can say that you've taken college classes before, and this is going to enhance your application, making you look like a more serious and more prepared candidate. You can also, you know, these credits can be easily transferred to your university wherever you end up after high school and counted toward your degree. It's gonna help you go into your program and be able to take more advanced statistics classes or other classes in your field. Lastly, I wanna point out the fact that we're gonna be using the iStar class platform. And so this is meant to make our course more interactive so that we can all, you know, actually talk to each other, and I can get feedback along the way from you guys about your learning, which is really important. So I hope that all of this has been helpful. I really want to see all of you this summer. If you are interested in registering for the course, you can contact iStar Class at the email right here, info@istarclass.com, or you can dial this number 1614-553-8513. And always, for any questions, check out our website here at istarclass.com. Thank you everybody for coming. And now we're gonna open it up for some question and answer sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selina. Thank you. 好，那在经过我们第二个部分的课程讲解之后呢，我们还是先有请我们的 Shirley 助教来给我们再解释一下刚才教授讲解的内容。之后呢，我们会有一个 Q&A session， 大家有什么问题都可以跟教授来面对面的交流，好吗？ Shirley, please.
好的，刚才教授讲了统计在各个领域的具体应用，包括工程、遗传学、流行病学、医疗学，还有公众健康。然后这几个 PPT 分别讲的是遗传、流行病学，然后医疗，还有气象，还有工程中的应用，然后还讲了在新冠中的应用。然后这门课主要会涵盖到的话题包括变量的种类，然后 descriptive statistics， 就是描述性的统计stats， 然后还有对概率的introduction， 然后离散的discrete random variable 离散随机变量，然后 binomial probability distribution 这个大家之后都会了解，然后 continuous random variables 就是连续的随机变量，然后 normal and students t distribution， 还有 parameter estimates， confidence intervals and hypothesis testing， 然后对一个平均值的 test， 还有对 proportion 也就是比例的一个 test， 然后 linear regression 就是线性回归，然后这些都是一些 reminder， 就是这是一个大学的课程，然后 如果表现得好的话，可以得到教授的推荐信。然后这个课是25个学生，是比较小的 size 的 class。然后这个课程你可以在 Common App 上写到，然后会对申请有所帮助。对没有什么，大家有什么问题吗？我会翻译给教授。What kind of ways can stats model second waves? Kind of ways can stats model 这位同学可不可以说我没有太看懂你的问题，可不可以再具体的解释一下你的问题？Kind of ways can stats model.
So my question is like if we take away the like protection and how do like statistics model second waves of COVID-19?
Shirley, do you want me to answer that question?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I have to admit, I am not an infectious disease epidemiologist. So there's specific, formulas, not formulas, but models with different inputs that go into these models. Whether it be, something like having a vaccine in place, how would that affect it? They try to basically predict that effect. How, the relaxing social distancing, actually going back and opening up businesses, having people go out there with or without masks, all of these things would be inputs. Other things that are known about the virus and how it behaves, whether it be how many people you're likely to infect. All of these things, a lot of our inputs or variables that would be taken into account in these models so that you can predict the cases. I hope that sort of gives you an idea, but it's a lot of different things. It's characteristics of the virus, characteristics of the environment in which the virus can develop, and also characteristics about the host, the people that can be infected with this. Any other questions? So think we have one more question. What's your question?
Okay, Larry, you may turn on your microphone. Okay.
How can it help with COVID other than just predict the trend? So there's other things that, you may have heard about is thinking about the hospital capacity, the number of beds that are needed versus the number that we're gonna have available. Okay, so I think that's one of the most important things that people are using statistics for, just to figure out how overwhelmed the hospitals can become during the pandemic, and how many more resources they would need to ask for from their governments or other agencies that can provide those resources. That's one thing that I can think of. Awesome. Any other things? You can ask anything. Yeah. So Leo says, creating a sample of participants to test the effect of future vaccines. So one thing that, we didn't talk about, and I'm thankful that you're bringing this up, Leo, is the fact that statistics is also being used to, figure out which people are more susceptible to COVID-19. There's a lot of data that that suggests that people that have obesity, people that have heart disease or hypertension, or other comorbidities will have worse COVID-19 outcomes. All of that research is done using statistics. And the last thing, going back to your point specifically, Leo, is, there are trials being done to figure out the best therapies for COVID-19, and whether they be vaccines or other interventions that people are designing to figure out whether the vaccine works or to figure out whether a drug works. All of that is going to involve statistical analysis. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, any more questions? 我看到大家还是很关心这个疫情的发展和变化哈，不过正好可以利用这段时间把我们的这个课程学起来。Okay, we got another question, Professor.
So someone's asking, write recommendations, would you take the class and do well? Absolutely, yes, of course. That's part of the deal. We hope that you will take it and do well, and I'm here as a resource for you, as not just to write recommendation letters, but as you're thinking of applying to colleges, I hope you will come to me with questions.
所以各位同学，不但我们可以获得学分，而且可以跟着我们的 Selina 博士一起做一个科研的项目，同时你表现好还会有推荐信哈。Okay, any more questions about the course or the program? So Larry, you are a freshman, but you can also take this course.
That's okay. So that's a really good question about the use of recommendations in the future for other purposes. I would be happy to write something for you now that you could store in a portfolio or something and use it in the future. I think a lot of colleges actually, like I know when I was an undergraduate at Yale, they told us to collect or ask for recommendations along the way and for future use. So I think that's totally valid, and I would be happy to do that for you, Larry.
OK， 也就是大家不管你在现在高中的哪一个年级，你现在选修了这门课程之后呢，你的学分，然后你的科研成果，你的这个背景实力的提升以及推荐信都是可以保留到你大学申请的时候的，而且你可以从教授这里面获得很多不但是学业上的，更多还有比如说申请啊等等各关于耶鲁啊等等各个方面的帮助和支持哈。OK, any other questions? 大家还有其他的问题没有啊？然后如果对我们的这个课程感兴趣呢，各位同学你可以联系到你的顾问老师或者咱们 iStar 的这个各位老师们哈，可以获取到更多的关于我们课程的信息，包括咱们这节试听课的一些材料，以及后面你如何报名以及咱们这个课程的信息。当然我们还会有其他更多的课程在接下来的时间内开设哈。